Dad, get up, there's something in the camp. You know, so on my last video, I talked about my first Bigfoot sighting in 1987. It was my only one. I'll tell you, the second one, it was less of a sighting and more of an actual encounter. It was a little more intense. End of summer 2013, 2 weeks after Labor Day weekend. Myself, my ex-wife, and 3 kids. We went up to northern New Mexico, southeast of Taos, up in the Tres Rios area. La Junta Canyon is where we went. About a 6-hour drive up there, 6 or 7. Got there kind of late in the evening. Got our tents all set up and all that. Had a fire, made our dinner, whatever it was. So we had 2 tents set up. We had one for myself, my ex-wife, then one for my kids, and they were probably 8 to 10 feet apart, not too far. And then we were back a little from the fire. The tents themselves were probably 20 or 30 feet from the fire. So there was a fire pit. And then beyond that, there was a concrete, like a picnic table. So by the time we finally all got in bed and got laid down and all that, midnight maybe. And we were the only ones there, because remember, it was like 2 weeks after Labor Day. So, that whole area bustles in the summertime with a lot of people from Texas. Let's be honest, there's a lot of Texans up there trying to get out of the Texas heat. And you can do that in northern New Mexico. If you've never been in northern New Mexico, just trust me, they're big boy mountains there. I say that to say that there had been a full 3 or 4 months of summer where it had just been busy. And then after Labor Day, it kind of shuts off. Kids are back in school, people are back at work and all that. Not a lot going on. And we planned it that way because I don't like being around a lot of people. I'm a people person, but when it comes to camping, I'd rather be away. And so it's midnight, roughly midnight. We're crawling our tents, crawling our sleeping bags, and just about to drift off to sleep. And my oldest son, Jacob, you'd have to know Jacob to know that he's not a storyteller. He's not, kind of the running family joke is that he was born 40. He's just always been he's the quintessential oldest child. He's just always been on top of his game. I was just about to sleep. And I heard, literally, Dad, get up, there's something in the camp. As any good dad would do, I spent 45 seconds trying to get my sleeping bag unzipped and get out of the tent. So I jumped out. At that point, Jacob was already up and he was out, so I was like, all right, tell me what happened. The reason Jacob had stayed up past everybody else is because the fire hadn't gone all the way out. And he said, I was going to put it out. He goes, no, don't put it out. I just want to sit here and watch it. I'll make sure it goes out. So it wasn't totally out. There were a few small little flames. I asked him what happened. And he said that something walked between the campfire and the tent. And I was like, well, was it a person? And he said, no, it wasn't a person. He said it walked like a person, but it wasn't a person. Instantly, the hair stood up on the back of my neck, and ex-wife got up, the other kids got up. And so we're standing out there, we stoked the fire back up, and he's explaining, kind of what happened. He was just sitting there watching the fire, and he saw something come out of the darkness. Not creeping, but walking slowly and quietly. Big, all huge thing walking, and it walked between the campfire and the table. And with the campfire not being out, he was still able to see it. And then whenever he said that, he kind of, when he yelled, he saw it kind of run off a little bit. So we're standing there, we're talking about the situation, and, we're all kind of like, okay, Jacob, okay, whatever. But in my mind, I'm like, I know Jacob's not that person. He's just not. I'm standing here, Jacob's standing here, the other 2 kids are over here, and my ex-wife's right beside me. I kind of look at her, and she keeps going like this. She'll lower her eyes and then quickly bring them back up. She did that 2 or 3 times, and I was like, well, what are you doing? She said, watch where my eyes go, because you can see eye shine over there. And I was like, okay. So I watched her, and I watched where her eyes went, and as soon as she brought her eyes up and looked, you could see eyes shut, back off over this way, right directly in front of her. Probably 20 feet. It was eye shine from the fire. You could see the eyes shut So it was almost mimicking my ex-wife, or I don't know. But anyway, you could see eye shine, and then you could see the eyes go down. So this happened 2 or 3 times. So at this point, I'm like, okay, I'll go get my 12-gauge shotgun out of the tent, because I don't go camping without some sort of ability to protect us. Jacob had brought his 12-gauge or 410. I'm not really sure. I'm sitting here watching, and she keeps doing this, and like you can see eyes over there. You know, you think maybe it's an owl or whatever. There was no hooting, there was nothing, and there were no trees in that particular area. As I'm watching her, you know, the moon had come out a little bit. The creek is probably 50 feet away from us. It went down, and it curved back towards us, and then it went back down that way. Right at that curve, a tree had fallen over, and like the big root ball was still sticking up. And I was watching my ex-wife, and I just happened to look back behind her, and something, like it was sitting on its haunches maybe, and it would lean back and look down our way. Then whenever I made eye contact with it, or I assume I made eye contact with it, or it saw me noticing it, it would lean back up, and the root ball would hide it. I would turn my head, but I'd keep my eyes turned that way, and I'd watch again, give it another 15 or 20 seconds, and you could see whatever it was lean back again and look at me. And then whenever I'd turn my head to look at it, to get a full look at it, you can see it rolling back up. So at this point, I'm like, well, there's obviously something there. Jacob saw something walk through the camp. He said it was way taller than me and way bigger than me. And then we have this thing down here at this little curve in the stream. So my ex-wife, she's like, what are you doing? So I told her, every time I lean back and look down there, something leans back forward so I can't see it. And she's like, nope, I'm done. So she took Anna and Ben, went to the van. So it's just Jacob and I out there. And we sit there, we talk about it, and we're like, you know, we really don't even want to lay back down. You know, you got to go to sleep at some point. And then back off way over this way, probably, I mean, it's pretty good ways. 60 or 70 yards, there were a bunch of reeds, and you could hear something rustling in there. So Jacob, being Mr. Jacob, decided, hey, I'm going to go over there. And I said, no, we had flashlights and all that. I said, all right, well, you go, and I'm going to cover you. I'm going to stay back here. So the van's back over here in a parking area. Fire's way over here, and Jacob's walking that way. I have a flashlight on him, and I realize there's nothing behind me. Like, it's just black behind me. My thought process all of a sudden was like, you know, something could grab me out of the darkness, and I'd never even know it was there. So I told Jacob, I said, listen, let's get back in the van. And we actually slept in the van that night. We didn't sleep in our tents or our sleeping bags. We didn't do any of that. We slept in the van. We had a conversion van. It had comfortable seats and a bed in the back, so it wasn't a huge deal. But for me to do that, especially, and Jacob, you know, the other kids were small. They were kids, so they were like, nope, I'm out. Ex-wife, nope, I'm out. I got very fit to sleep that night. I didn't sleep well just because, you know, in my mind, I would wake up right about, because I slept in the driver's seat with it leaned back. I would look up and there'd be Bigfoot staring at me, which was as creepy as anything else. You know, nothing happened. Nothing happened. We got up, and the rest of the time we were there, nothing else happened. But I will tell you, you know that feeling you get when something's watching you. You know something's watching you. It was literally that feeling the whole time we were there. There was something watching us, and we had been visited by whatever these things are. So the next day, I get up and I go look, and I'm like, I stand about where we were standing that night when my ex-wife was showing me the eye shine and all that. And I look and I see about where we were, and I go over to that area. The land slopes off right there down about 4 feet. I mean, it's a pretty good drop off right there. And there were footprint things in there, but I didn't think to do anything with them. I was just in shock that there was something there. But from the judgment, from how low that was to where the eye shine was, 9.5 feet tall. Whatever this thing was massive. This thing was huge. And to know that there was not only that one, at least one more that would lean back and look at us. You know, we never felt frightened, really, just very disconcerting, knowing that there's something there that you don't know what it is. And it's smart enough to close its eyes when it's being looked at, or it's smart enough to lean back forward when it knows you're looking at it. Quite an eye opener. And there's really no other way to say that. It was, I can still, in my mind, I can see kind of in the moonlight, the one that would lean forward. And then the other one, it was just only every eye shine. This is another one of those things where people can say, well, I don't believe in them, or I've never seen them and all that. And I get that. If I had the two sightings, one sighting, one actual kind of encounter, I wouldn't believe in them either. I get people not believing them, but I know what I've seen. And I know that there's nobody that can tell me any different. They can say, well, we were this or that. No, there was no alcohol involved. There were no drugs involved. We don't do drugs. Yeah, we were kind of tired, but for all of us to have a mass hallucination and see the same thing. So in closing, if you guys have any creepy stories or anything you'd like, if you have a story you'd like me to tell, please send them in. Send them on our email. This would be the best way to get a hold of us. And then we can go from there on phone numbers or whatever. But it's OreoSpeedwagon20@gmail.com. I'll put that on the screen so you'll be able to pause it or whatever and get that. But I would really like to start telling these stories, and that's why I started with these two first encounters of mine. You know, these things were 26 years apart, but they're still both vividly etched in my memory. Again, people can say what they want to say. Don't care. I know what I've seen. Anyway, y'all have a good evening, and we will catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching OreoSpeedwagon.